In a world that never stops moving, stillness becomes the rarest form of wisdom. We are taught to chase, to climb, to hustle, to conquer. But the soul, your eternal essence, is not impressed by noise. It doesn't race. It doesn't strive. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And in the hush between your thoughts, in the quiet after the questions, that's where the soul begins to speak. Clarity is not something you achieve. It's something you remember. You were born with it, wrapped in simplicity, bathed in presence, untouched by confusion. But as the world's volume turned up, as expectations piled upon you, like bricks on the chest of your spirit, the clarity was buried beneath it all. Not lost, just waiting. Waiting for you to be still enough to feel it again. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of awareness. It is the moment when you are no longer doing life, but being life. And in that being, the fog lifts. You begin to see, not with the eyes, but with the heart. Not with logic, but with knowing. The kind of knowing that doesn't require proof because it is truth. Most people confuse clarity with answers. They think they'll feel clear once they figure it all out, once the past is explained, the future guaranteed, the pain justified. But clarity is not born in solving. It is born in surrender. When you stop clenching the steering wheel of your life so tightly, when you stop demanding certainty from an uncertain world, something miraculous happens, peace walks in. And where peace goes, clarity follows. Let us remember the truth known by sages and saints. You are not here to figure life out. You are here to feel it, to open to it, to soften into it like water returning to the sea. The need for control is the ego's obsession, but the soul has no such hunger. It doesn't need to control. It already belongs. It doesn't need to prove it already is. It doesn't need to race. It already rests. Your inner chaos is not because life is chaotic. It's because you've been avoiding the sacred space within you, the silence. You've been filling every crack in your day with noise, distraction, validation. But clarity doesn't rise through effort. It rises through stillness. It doesn't come from pushing. It comes from pausing. And in that pause, you meet yourself again. You were never meant to carry the world on your shoulders. The world is not yours to control. It's yours to experience, to love, to witness, and to let pass through you like wind through an open field. When you sit in stillness, you remember this. You remember that life is not a storm to be survived, but a breeze to be felt. And in feeling it fully, you return to the truth that you were never disconnected, just distracted. Distraction is the greatest thief of clarity, not because it takes something from you, but because it turns your gaze away from what was always there. Like the sun hidden behind clouds, your light never left. It was only obscured by thought, fear, busyness. And when you finally get still, the clouds part, not all at once, but gently, respectfully, like a curtain rising to reveal your own divinity, waiting patiently behind the veil. The stillness does not shout, it does not force, it invites, and it waits, always waits for you to accept. Not when the to-do list is done, not when the circumstances are perfect, but now in the breath you are taking. Now in the space between your thoughts. Now in the sacred pause where the mind rests and the soul wakes. And in this waking, something changes. You stop asking life to be different. You stop begging the moment to become something else. You begin instead to listen. To listen not with your ears, but with your entire being. You begin to hear the language of the soul, the language of stillness, and it tells you what no amount of striving could ever reveal. That you are safe, that you are loved, that you are already whole. Stillness is not a task. It is a homecoming, a return, a remembrance of who you were before the world told you who you should be. It is the falling away of every label, every mask, every identity constructed from fear. And as it all falls, what remains is essence. What remains is God not outside you, but in you. As you, moving through you, breathing you, being you, And in this sacred space, clarity is no longer something you seek. It becomes what you are. Let the world keep spinning. Let the chaos outside dance its wild, unpredictable dance. You don't need to control the storm. You only need to find the eye of it, the center. And that center is always still, that center is always you. So sit, breathe, be, and in that stillness, let the illusions dissolve. Let the old stories, the ones that said you're not enough, not worthy, not capable, let them fall like leaves in autumn, no longer needed for the soul's blooming. You are not your past. You are not your fear. You are not the noise of the world. You are the silence beneath it. You are the space between the notes, the rhythm that gives the music its meaning. You see now why clarity cannot be forced, why it resists the grasping of the mind and instead flows through the openness of the heart. Because clarity is not information, it is transformation. It does not fill you, it empties you. And in that emptiness, you finally feel light enough to rise. You become like a feather surrendered to the wind, not passive, not powerless, but free. Free from the illusion that you need to have it all figured out. Free from the belief that healing requires effort. Free from the ego's insistence that you must earn peace. You don't earn peace, you return to it. You don't achieve clarity, you allow it. And all of it begins in stillness. So if you are weary, sit. If you are confused, sit. If you are broken, grieving, lost, overwhelmed, sit. Not to escape, not to avoid, but to arrive. Stillness is the most radical arrival. It is where you meet life without agenda, where you stop trying to be anything and remember you are already everything. In stillness, the soul speaks, and it speaks in a language beyond words, a language made of feeling, of knowing, of being. And what it whispers is this: you are already home. What if the very thing you've been searching for has been searching for you too, not in the noise, not in the chase, but in the quiet you keep avoiding? What if stillness is not just a spiritual practice, but a doorway, a sacred threshold where the divine and the human meet, where the veil thins and truth is no longer something you read about, but something you feel vibrating through the marrow of your being? There's a reason the great mystics sat in silence. There's a reason the prophets wandered the desert. There's a reason the sages withdrew from the noise of cities and climbed mountains to find God. It's not because the divine is far. It's because the world is loud, too loud to hear the subtle beauty of the eternal that whispers from within, too loud to feel the sacred pulse of presence moving in every breath, too loud to hear the soul say, I'm still here. I never left. You just forgot how to listen. You don't need a new path. You need a deeper presence. You don't need to run forward. You need to fall inward, into the holy quiet where your spirit waits patiently behind the storm of your thoughts, into the inner sanctuary where truth does not arrive dressed in certainty, but in peace. And that peace, that gentle presence, is the language of clarity. It does not bark orders or deliver perfect blueprints. It simply clears the debris so the light can shine again. And you have always been that light. The confusion, the anxiety, the overthinking, those are just clouds. And clouds, no matter how dark, can never extinguish the sun. The sun just waits. Still, constant, glowing behind the storm, your soul is that sun. Not in need of fixing, just waiting to be seen again. The world has conditioned you to think answers are earned by effort, that truth is something you must chase, something out there just beyond your reach. But the spiritual life is not about chasing anything. It is about remembering what is already within. It is the sacred reversal, the path not of gaining, but of shedding, of unlearning the noise. So you can return to the knowing. And it takes courage to be still. It takes courage to stop distracting yourself with the next thing, the next goal, the next identity. Because when you finally sit in silence, You meet yourself, not the self you show the world, not the self you've polished and performed, but the raw, trembling, holy self that has been whispering beneath the surface all along. Stillness is not easy. It confronts, it reveals, it humbles, it strips away everything that is false. It forces you to see the parts of yourself you've buried beneath achievement and validation. But it is in this seeing, this honest, sacred witnessing, that you begin to return home. And that homecoming is clarity. Not the clarity that gives you all the answers, but the clarity that says you don't need them, you already are the answer. There's a kind of wisdom that lives in the quiet. It cannot be found in books or sermons or lectures. It is not taught, it is remembered. It is the wisdom of the trees that do not try to grow, but grow. The rivers that do not try to flow, but flow. The stars that do not try to shine, but shine. What makes them divine is not effort, but essence. And what makes you divine is not your doing, but your being. You are the tree, you are the river, you are the star, and you are never more aligned with the truth of life than when you are still enough to simply be. Sit with that. Let it break open the armor of your striving. Let it dissolve the illusion that your worth is somewhere ahead of you. Let it remind you that clarity is not the reward for working harder, but the revelation that comes when you finally stop. And the moment you stop, truly stop, you start to see, you see that your worth has never been in your productivity, that your value has never been in your accomplishments, that your purpose is not something you chase, but something you remember. And what you remember in the stillness is this: you are already whole. You are already held. You are already here. And here is where everything begins. When the mind gets quiet, the heart begins to speak. And it speaks in a different language, a softer one. It doesn't argue or compare or worry. It doesn't say when or if or someday. It says now. It says yes. It says I am. And this I am is the most powerful prayer you will ever whisper. It is not a begging of life to become something else. It is a full-bodied return to what already is. It is the dissolving of ego into essence. It is the surrender of resistance into rest. It is the moment you stop pushing the river and let yourself be carried. So sit. Sit like the mountain sits. Sit like the moon watches. Sit like the ocean waits. Not to escape life, but to merge with it. To merge with the still, unshaken, eternal pulse that has always been inside you. Clarity does not always come in lightning bolts. Sometimes it arrives like dew, soft, slow, and silent, but it nourishes, it renews, it awakens the parts of you that were never dead, just dormant. And in that awakening, you come alive, not as someone else, but as more fully yourself. There is no rush, there is only rhythm, the rhythm of breath, the rhythm of being, the rhythm of love that has no opposite, because it was never conditional. The stillness teaches this. It shows you that underneath all your trying is a truth that never needed to be earned. You are the clarity. You are the peace. You are the stillness. And when you stop long enough to feel that, not just understand it, but truly feel it, you begin to live, not from fear, but from presence. Not from need, but from fullness. Not from ego, but from soul. And the soul, the soul does not rush. The soul knows. The soul flows. The soul rests in the silence because it remembers what the mind forgets, that God is not somewhere else. God is here in the stillness, in the breath, in the now. There's something sacred about silence that terrifies the ego. The ego feeds on noise, on proving, achieving, calculating, defending. But the soul is nourished by stillness. The soul doesn't compete. It doesn't grasp or argue, it simply is. It breathes with the universe. It aligns with the eternal. It remembers. And the more you allow yourself to be still, the more you realize how loud your life had become. Not just in volume, but in expectation. Every moment stacked with demands, every thought laced with pressure, every breath taken like it had to accomplish something. But stillness says otherwise. Stillness says, come as you are, let go of the armor, lay down the need to be more than you are in this moment. It's enough. You're enough. You see, clarity doesn't need you to be perfect. It only needs you to be present. Present enough to witness what's been underneath all along. Not the story of who you think you are, but the truth of what you've always been. The presence behind the personality, the awareness behind the thoughts, the light behind the identity. When you return to stillness, you return to yourself. Not the self shaped by fear or comparison or past wounds, but the self with a capital S, the infinite spark that existed before the world had a name for you. And that spark doesn't flicker, it burns steady. Even when the mind is in chaos, the soul remains calm. Even when life is uncertain, the spirit stays whole. But we forget, we get caught in the swirl, we mistake the turbulence of our thoughts for the truth of our being, and in that forgetting, we suffer. We chase things that cannot fill us. We climb ladders that lead nowhere. We try to quiet the noise with more noise, but the answer has never changed. The way home has never moved. It waits, always waits in the quiet. So sit in the discomfort if it's there. Sit in the emptiness if that's what rises. Sit even when the mind screams that you should be doing something, especially then, because the moment you stop running from yourself is the moment you begin to heal. Stillness is not passive. It is the most radical form of alignment. It is choosing to return when the world tells you to run. It is saying, I trust the silence more than the shouting. And in that trust, clarity emerges. Not as a lightning strike, but as a soft unfolding like petals opening to the sun, one breath at a time. Do you feel it? That gentle remembering that you don't have to strive to be worthy? That quiet hum beneath your rib cage that says you're not broken, just buried? That sacred pull inward that whispers, stop trying, just be? That's clarity rising. That's your soul stepping forward after years of waiting for you to pause, to listen, to come home. Because the soul cannot shout over the ego. It will never fight for your attention. It will simply wait. It will wait while you exhaust yourself with proving. It will wait while you perform for love. It will wait while you carry burdens that were never yours to carry. And when you finally put them down, when you sit in the stillness long enough to hear the silence, it will gently say, welcome back. There is no punishment for forgetting, only pain. The pain of being disconnected from your own light. But that pain too is a teacher. It is not here to destroy you. It is here to guide you not toward more doing, but toward deeper being. Every ache, every doubt, every unraveling moment is a breadcrumb leading you back to the stillness where clarity lives. And when you enter that space, something sacred happens. You stop asking life for explanations. You stop begging the universe to make it make sense. You begin instead to trust, not because you have the answers, but because you no longer need them. You begin to feel the subtle but unshakable truth that you are guided, that you are carried, that you are enough. The world outside may still be loud, but the world within becomes your sanctuary. And from that sanctuary, everything changes. Not because life changes, but because you see it differently. You see it through the eyes of presence, through the lens of love, through the truth of your soul, which was never confused, only unheard. And so you walk differently. You speak with more softness. You listen with more depth. You move with more grace. Not because you're trying to be spiritual, but because you're no longer trying to be anything else. You are finally being what you are, a sacred thread in the fabric of existence, a note in the great song of creation, a soul remembering its light. Stillness teaches you that nothing is missing, that you don't need to chase alignment. You need only remove the noise that's hiding it. You don't need to create purpose. You need only feel the pulse of it that's always been within you. Let go of the idea that clarity is something to be earned. It is not a prize. It is a presence. It arises when you are brave enough to stop, open enough to listen, soft enough to feel. It flows in like a tide, not when you command it, but when you invite it. And it washes away everything that was never true. In the stillness, illusions dissolve, masks fall, armor melts. You become transparent to yourself. And in that transparency, there is nothing left to defend, nothing left to fix, nothing left to prove. There is only truth. And the truth is that you are already whole. You always have been. Stillness does not change your life by adding more to it. It changes your life by taking away what never belonged. The false urgency, the inherited fear, the borrowed dreams, the narratives handed to you by a world that confused motion for meaning. Stillness is the great purifier. It doesn't decorate the cage, it dissolves it. And what's left when the cage dissolves? Freedom. The kind of freedom that doesn't shout or need permission. The kind of freedom that doesn't come with flags or declarations. The kind of freedom that lives in your breath. Quiet, sacred, unmistakable. It's the freedom of no longer being pulled in 1,000 directions. The freedom of finally hearing your own voice again after years of listening to everyone else's. The freedom of remembering that you are allowed to choose peace over performance. When you begin to live from stillness, you no longer crave validation in the same way. You no longer bend yourself into versions that fit the room. You no longer ask people to fill the void that only presence can hold. Because you've tasted something deeper. You've touched the well beneath the world's thirst. You've returned to the source, not in theory, but in living, breathing reality. And from that place, everything changes. You love without attachment. You speak without trying to impress. You listen without waiting to respond. You no longer react, you respond. Because you are no longer driven by unconscious stories. You are awake now, rooted, still. Clarity strips away the unnecessary. It reveals the essence. And when you see with essence, you don't just see more clearly, you see more kindly. You look at your pain with tenderness instead of judgment. You hold your past with compassion instead of shame. You see other people's anger as fear, their cruelty as confusion, their arrogance as woundedness. And you forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Stillness births this kind of clarity. Not the kind that just makes decisions easier, but the kind that makes the heart softer. The kind that lets you walk through the same world, but with entirely new eyes, eyes that see through illusion, that recognize divine patterns in chaos, that find peace not in the absence of noise, but in the presence of awareness. There is a sacred intelligence moving through this universe. Call it God, call it source, call it life. It is not random, it is not cruel, it is precise, gentle, profoundly aware of what your soul came here to remember. But it doesn't force you. It invites you. It will not wrestle your will to the ground. It will wait. And it waits in the quiet. You want to know who you are? Then be still. Don't just sit with the question. Become the space that no longer needs to ask. That's what stillness does. It doesn't answer your questions, it dissolves them. It doesn't fix your brokenness, it reveals that you were never broken. It doesn't give you new ideas, it clears the fog so truth can rise. Like the sun rising not because it's told to, but because it's what it does. You are not here to be a performer on life's stage. You are not here to be constantly visible, constantly relevant, constantly productive. You are here to be real, to be awake, to be so rooted in truth that nothing outside you has the power to uproot you. And that kind of rootedness comes not from willpower, but from stillness. It's in stillness that you remember the rhythm of life, the inhale and exhale, the expansion and the return, the rise and the rest. You were never meant to run endlessly forward. You were designed to pause, to reflect, to listen, to let the tide carry you back inward before you reach again outward. The clarity that comes in stillness is not about making better plans. It's about no longer needing a plan to feel safe. It's about trusting the unfolding, about letting go of your white-knuckled grip on how you think it should go and leaning fully into the mystery. Because the mystery is not your enemy. It is the birthplace of grace. Do not fear the unknown. Fear missing it. Fear becoming so busy, so distracted, so addicted to noise that you never hear the invitation hiding beneath the surface of your life. The invitation to come home, not to a house, not to a person, not to a belief, but to the timeless space within you that has never been touched by fear. That place is still. That place is whole. That place is where clarity lives. And once you live from that space, the world no longer controls your peace. You no longer chase love, you become it. You no longer fear endings, you trust transitions. You no longer resist what is, you flow with it. And in that flow, everything sacred becomes visible again. The ordinary becomes holy. The mundane becomes miraculous. And so the invitation remains, be still. Not because it's trendy, not because it's spiritual, but because your soul remembers the language of silence. And it's time you did too. You won't find yourself in the next breakthrough, the next relationship, the next success. You will find yourself when you stop running. When you sit in the quiet with nothing to prove, nowhere to get, no one to become. And in that sitting, you will hear the oldest truth echo through your being. You are always it. You were always enough. You are always home. So now, as the breath slows and the noise begins to fade into the background once more, you find yourself standing not at the end, but at the return. The return to what was always real, always waiting, always whispering beneath the rush of the world. This is not a conclusion. This is the moment when all the seeking dissolves and only the stillness remains. And in that stillness, everything becomes clear. You don't need to make life perfect. You don't need to fix every flaw or heal every ache before you are allowed to be at peace. You are allowed now. Not after the storm in it, not once clarity comes, but because clarity comes when you stop demanding it and begin allowing it. The stillness does not erase the journey. It blesses it. It gathers every shattered moment and folds it into a single quiet truth. Nothing was wasted. Every detour was a teacher. Every heartbreak was a mirror. Every silence you avoided was a door back to yourself. You ran, yes. You stumbled. You forgot. But the soul never left you. It simply waited. And now you are ready to listen again. And what does the soul say? It doesn't give you instructions. It doesn't hand you a map. It doesn't require that you understand. It only asks that you trust. Trust the pause. Trust the breath. Trust the invisible rhythm that life has been moving to all along, even when you couldn't hear the music. Let the stillness be your sanctuary now. Let it be your teacher, your guide, your anchor, not once in a while, but always. Let it meet you in the morning before your thoughts begin. Let it hold you at night when your fears return. Let it be the space you return to when the world demands your performance. And you remember, I am not a role. I am not an idea. I am not what others need me to be. I am presence itself. And presence does not perform. Clarity is not a light that flickers on and off depending on your worthiness. It is always shining. It is always speaking. It is we who turn away, we who drown it out. We who run, not because we are lost, but because we forgot we already belong. And now, beloved soul, you remember that silence is not empty, it is full. You remember that surrender is not weakness, it is power. You remember that the pause is not the absence of progress, it is the birth of purpose. You remember that nothing outside you needs to change for you to return home. Because home is not a place, it is a presence. And it lives in you, right here, right now. It always did. So walk on, not with certainty, but with clarity. Not with all the answers, but with the knowing that you are allowed to not know and still be deeply, beautifully whole. Speak less to convince. Listen more to understand. Create not to impress, but to express. Love not for what it brings back to you, but for the miracle of what it brings out of you. You do not need to be louder. You need to be truer. You do not need to be seen more. You need to see more. You do not need more power. You need deeper peace. And all of it begins and ends in the stillness you were once afraid to sit in. Now you know better. Stillness is not where you lose yourself. It's where you find yourself again. Not the self the world taught you to perform, but the real self, the quiet self, the eternal self, the self that does not need to be explained, only remembered. And so let your next breath be not a rush toward answers, but a return to presence. Let your next moment be not another chase for clarity, but a sacred pause where clarity finds you. You are not here to race time. You are here to touch eternity, and you do so every time you choose to be still. So be still now, not because the world told you to rest, but because your soul remembered it could. Let this be the moment you stop waiting to arrive and realize you already have. Let this be the end of searching and the beginning of being. Clarity has come, not because the world changed, but because you did. Because you stopped, because you listened, because you remembered who you are. And who you are is enough. Always was, always will be, and now you know it. Clarity comes in the stillness. And in that stillness, you are finally free. You were not born to race the clock. You were not born to chase the minutes like loose marbles scattering across a tile floor. You were born timeless, infinite, spacious, a breath of God inhabiting the temporary shell of flesh and bone, not to be measured by hours past, but by the light you emit while here. Time, as you have come to know it, is not your master. It is your mirror. And you, beloved, are not behind. You are simply being invited to expand within the sacred space of now. The panic you feel around time is not because time is cruel. It's because the ego believes your worth is tied to productivity, to calendars and clocks and external achievements. But your spirit knows better. Your soul is not in a rush. It is eternal. It is patient. It is not counting days, it is breathing presence into them. What if your purpose was not to keep up, but to slow down until you become one with the rhythm that has always been here, beneath the noise? Time is not something you have, it is something you are in relationship with. It stretches when you are present. It contracts when you resist. It disappears altogether when you are in flow. And it traps you in anxiety when you believe you must catch up with something outside yourself. But there is nothing to catch. The finish line is not in the future, it is in your stillness. The trees are not in a hurry, yet they grow. The sun is not anxious, yet it rises. The moon doesn't beg for your permission to shine night, simply is. Why then, dear soul, do you rush through your own becoming? Who convinced you that your sacred unfolding had to be done on a timeline someone else invented? The divine is not on a schedule. Your awakening has no due date. You see, the illusion of running out of time is not a crisis of time itself, it is a crisis of identity. The part of you that fears not enough time is the same part of you that believes it must earn its place here. That is the voice of the ego. The ego will tell you, do more, be more, achieve more, then you'll be safe. But the soul whispers, you already are. Be still and know. When you are truly present, when you drop beneath the mind's fixation on past and future, you enter the timeless field of being. This is where healing happens. This is where peace lives. This is where you remember that nothing real can be rushed and nothing true can be missed. In that holy space, you no longer chase time. You become a vessel for eternity. Pause with me now, not to analyze, but to feel. Feel the breath in your body. It is not yesterday's breath, it is not tomorrow's, it is this owner right now. This breath is your teacher. It says, everything is happening here, everything is born now, nothing is out of reach when you are rooted in this sacred inhale. You do not need to earn stillness, it is your home. You were not sent here to keep pace with a society that has forgotten how to be. You were not created to perform urgency like a ritual of self-worth. The race is not real. The timeline is not divine. It is man-made. What is real is your awareness. What is holy is your presence. What is miraculous is the love you allow to flow through you when you no longer resist the moment you're in. And I say to you now, from the deepest well of truth, peace is not found in managing time. It is found in surrendering to being. When you stop trying to bend time to your will and instead open to its flow, you become aligned with the infinite intelligence that knows what you truly need and when you need it. Your life starts to feel guided, not pressured, orchestrated, not forced. So many people ask, how do I find more time? But this is the wrong question. The real question is, how do I return to the eternal now where time loses its grip and I find my soul again? The answer is always presence. The answer is always inner spaciousness. You do not need more hours. You need fewer distractions. You do not need to speed up. You need to return inward. There is a spiritual physics to life. When you become still inside, the external world aligns itself around your clarity. Not because you have control, but because you are now cooperating with divine timing. The more you trust the unfolding, the more you see that every delay had a purpose. Every pause had a gift, and every moment was never wasted. It was forming you. You may think your future lives in the next 5 years, but the truth is, your future is being formed in how you show up right now. Do you rush past the moment, or do you live in it fully? Do you squeeze time, or do you soften into it? When you expand within time, your energy shifts from force to faith. And that shift is everything. Because when you live from the soul, you are no longer governed by fear's clock. You become timeless when you release resistance. You become powerful when you stop performing urgency. You become divine when you stop fighting the moment you're in and allow it to be what it is, without judgment, without panic, without shame. The sacred is always still. The holy is always now. And here's a truth worth remembering every day. You do not run out of time when you live aligned with the source, because source is eternal. And you, beloved, are an extension of that source. How can you be late to your own life when life itself lives through you? When you are truly aligned with the divine rhythm of life, you will notice something miraculous. The moment begins to slow down for you, not because the clock has changed, but because your consciousness has. The more inwardly spacious you become, the more expansive the world around you begins to feel. Opportunities that once slipped by unnoticed begin to reveal themselves. Silence becomes meaningful. A conversation becomes sacred. A walk becomes a communion. This is the reward of presence. It awakens you to what has always been here. You are not waiting for life to begin. Life is waiting for you to arrive. And arriving does not mean doing more, rushing more, checking more boxes. It means becoming awake to this very breath, this very feeling, this very now. There is no magic in the future if you're asleep in the present. The ego will always convince you that fulfillment is one step ahead, one goal away, one promotion, one relationship, one achievement down the line. But the soul smiles and says, I am already here. Be with me now. We live in a culture addicted to urgency. Urgency has become a false badge of importance. But urgency is not presence, it is the child of fear. Urgency says, I am not enough unless I prove my worth through speed. But presence says, I am already enough. And from this stillness, miracles unfold. The deepest transformation you can experience in this lifetime is not rearranging your schedule, it is realigning your relationship to time itself. Because time isn't chasing you, it is offering itself to you. It is a silent invitation to return to what is real. But most people don't hear this invitation. They are running, trying to outrun the voice in their head that says they'll never be enough. but there is no finish line to self-worth. You are worthy now. You are already whole now. No achievement, no title, no external validation can complete what the divine already calls perfect. Let this truth move through you. The present moment is not a stepping stone, it is the entire path. When you expand within this moment, you stop grasping and start allowing. You stop begging life to hurry, and you begin to trust that everything you need is arriving right on time. Your healing, your awakening, your purpose, your next step. They are not on some distant horizon, they are embedded in the present, right here, in this breath, in this stillness. You've been taught that stillness is laziness, that not moving is failure, that rest is weakness. But the truth is, stillness is spiritual strength. It takes power to pause. It takes deep faith to listen before you act. It takes courage to trust that life is unfolding perfectly, even when you don't see the outcome yet. That's the difference between living by ego and living by spirit. Ego demands a result. Spirit embraces the process. You were never meant to conquer time. You were meant to harmonize with it. And the only way to harmonize with time is to live from your soul. Because your soul is not counting the minutes, it is counting the moments of truth, the moments of love, the moments of surrender. And the soul doesn't measure success in speed, it measures success in alignment. Slow down, not because you're giving up, but because you're finally waking up to the miracle of a heartbeat, waking up to the beauty of your breath, waking up to the divine whisper that says, you are not running out of time. You are simply being called to return home, to yourself, to your center, to the eternal now. When you live from the ego, every moment feels like a race. When you live from the soul, every moment feels like grace. The difference is not in what you do, it's in how you be. Can you allow yourself to be rooted, not rushed? Can you trust that your becoming is not on a timer, but on a divine timeline? The soul does not bloom on demand. The soul blooms in divine timing. And divine timing is never late, never early, only perfect. But to see its perfection, you must stop looking at life through the lens of control and begin to see it through the lens of surrender. You don't need more time to feel whole. You need less resistance to the time you already have. You don't need to fix your schedule, you need to expand within it. You don't need to stretch the hours, you need to soften into your presence. Let go of the belief that you are behind. Let go of the belief that you must prove your worth through productivity. Let go of the anxiety that tells you life is slipping away. Life is not slipping, it is inviting. The moment is not passing you by, it is waiting for you to notice it. And when you do, when you finally see the now for what it is, a living, breathing sanctuary of divine awareness, you will understand that you never needed more hours. You only needed more presence. You only needed to stop chasing time and start expanding within it. There was a deeper part of you that already lives in harmony with time. It's the part of you that loses track of hours when you're doing what you love. It's the part that feels one breath stretch into eternity when you're holding a loved one, watching the stars, or hearing music that moves your soul. In those moments, you are no longer the chaser, you are the channel. You are no longer the one fearing time, you are the one dissolving into its sacred rhythm. This is what happens when you remember who you are. Not a creature of habit, but a current of heaven. Not a machine designed to produce, but a miracle designed to awaken. And to awaken, you must stop measuring your value by the world's frantic standards. You must reclaim your sacred right to rest, to be, to breathe, without guilt, without apology, without the illusion that stillness equals failure. You are not here to meet every deadline. You are here to meet your destiny. And destiny is not found in rushing. Destiny is revealed in receptivity. It speaks in the soft moments, in the subtle nudges, in the divine delays. But if you're always in a hurry, you'll miss the whispers that were meant to guide you. You'll miss the doorway disguised as a pause. You'll miss the miracle unfolding in what you thought was wasted time. How often have you condemned yourself for not being far enough? How often have you swallowed the shame of not yet, not knowing that the universe was rearranging the stars for your arrival? How often have you measured your life by artificial milestones, only to realize that none of them brought the peace you craved? Peace was never the reward. Peace was the path. But the path is invisible when you are sprinting through it. Slow down, not because you're falling behind, but because you're finally waking up to the truth. Presence is the gateway to power. Awareness is the home of miracles. And when you are fully here, fully now, fully you, everything aligns, not because you forced it, but because you flowed with it. Because you trusted that the universe was never against you. It was waiting for you to stop running. There are no late bloomers in the garden of the soul. There are only divine unfoldings. And your blooming is beautiful, not in spite of its timing, but because of it. Some souls need more winners before they rise. Some truths need more silence before they surface. Some hearts need more breaking before they become open enough to hold the light. What if the delays in your life weren't punishments but preparations? What if what looked like detours were actually initiations? What if time wasn't the enemy but the womb from which your higher self would be born? You can't rush birth. You can't rush the cracking of the shell. And you cannot force the soul into awakening. You can only allow it. And that's the key. Allowing, not controlling, not pushing, not demanding. Allowing, expanding, opening, trusting. This is the soul's relationship to time. Not a tug of war, but a dance. A surrender to the divine tempo that already knows the steps. When you stop rushing through life, you begin to see what you've been missing. You see the way the sunlight kisses the leaves. You hear the sound of your own intuition, faint but clear. You notice the sacred details, the look in a stranger's eye, the breath between words, the silence beneath noise. Life stops being something you run through and becomes something you are in communion with. And here's the sacred paradox. The more present you are, the more time seems to expand. You get more done with less stress. You make better decisions. You attract more synchronicity because your energy is clean, uncluttered, unclenched. You are no longer reacting to life, you are responding from truth. You are no longer racing the clock, you are dancing with eternity. You cannot heal while you are in a rush. You cannot receive when you are in survival mode. You cannot hear the divine when your mind is yelling over the still, small voice. To expand within time means to create space. Space in your thoughts, space in your emotions, space in your schedule, not as an escape, but as a sacred act of remembrance. Remember this, you are not behind. You are on time for your own life. The moment you arrive fully into the now, you are exactly where you are meant to be. No sooner, no later, no more, no less. So be here, breathe here, trust here. This is your portal. This is your healing. This is your miracle. The world will tell you to move faster, but your soul will ask you to move truer. One is noise, the other is wisdom. One exhausts, the other expands. And this is where your freedom begins, not by matching the world's speed, but by matching the universe's rhythm. It takes deep courage to slow down when everything around you says rush. It takes spiritual maturity to rest when the world rewards exhaustion. But until you stop equating your value with your velocity, you will remain trapped in the illusion that your worth is somewhere you have to arrive. It's not. It's here. Now. Always, when you stop chasing time, you begin to reclaim your life. Not just in hours and days, but in meaning, in presence, in sacred attention. Your relationships deepen. Your inner voice sharpens. Your nervous system softens. And life, once blurry from the race, becomes vivid again. You taste your food. You feel your emotions. You hear the wind speaking through the trees. You come alive not because you did more, but because you finally did less with more love. And isn't that the point of time? Not to control it, not to dominate it, but to fill it with depth, with love, with beauty that cannot be measured but only felt. The ego says, make every second count. The soul says, make every second sacred. There is a difference. One is pressure, the other is presence. So much of our anxiety comes from imagining we've fallen behind on a timeline no one truly understands. We compare, we panic, we rush. But have you ever asked, who created this race? Who decided what on time means? Who said you were too late for anything meant for your soul? The divine never rushes. It waits with infinite compassion for your readiness. You don't need to arrive quickly, you need to arrive wholly. And the only way to do that is to stop rushing your becoming. You are not an assembly line. You are a constellation being lit one star at a time. Let life pace you, not pressure you. Let love pull you, not force drive you. Let grace teach you that sometimes the deepest growth comes in the quietest season. The most powerful revelations happen not in the peak, but in the pause. The pause is sacred. The pause is where the divine whispers. And if you're in that pause right now, if things feel slow, still, or uncertain, know that you are not stuck. You are gestating. You are aligning. You are being tuned to a higher frequency. You are being invited to inhabit your life with more truth, more courage, more soul. In stillness, you will remember what matters. You will remember what no clock can ever measure the depth of your being. You are not here to do time. You are here to embody eternity. You are not here to chase the clock. You are here to awaken beyond it. Let every inhale be a return. Let every exhale be a release. You don't need to rush into the future to find yourself. You need to root into the now and let yourself expand, not with urgency, but with reverence. And that expansion doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like grief or patience or surrender. These are not delays. These are doorways. This is time becoming sacred again. Time is not your enemy. It is your ally when you stop fighting it. It is your teacher when you listen. It is your canvas when you become the artist of your life. You can't control how long anything lasts, but you can choose how deeply you live while it's here. You can choose to make a moment eternal by how open your heart is in it. You can choose to make peace the foundation of your hours. You can choose to move through time, not as a victim of its ticking, but as a creator of its meaning. You can choose to stop performing urgency and start living intimacy with this breath, with this step, with this moment, because the greatest miracle is not waiting in the future. It is waiting in the full embrace of now. You were not meant to be a servant of the ticking hand. You were not sent here to measure your life in deadlines, alarms, and schedules, but in awareness, presence, and the sacred art of noticing. Noticing the way the moment holds you when you stop resisting it. Noticing how peace begins to rise when you stop filling every corner of your day with noise. Noticing that what you were chasing was never time, it was you. You were looking for yourself in the future, not realizing you've been quietly waiting in the stillness all along. When you slow down, you don't lose time. You meet your life, you meet your wounds, you meet your truth. And you give yourself permission to feel, not as a distraction from progress, but as the very path to wholeness. To feel is not to fall behind. To feel is to return to what is real. The present moment is always real. The future is theory. The past is memory. But now is alive. It is breathing, it is sacred, and it is where God lives. And what is God if not the breath beneath the breath, the stillness behind every heartbeat, the intelligence flowing through the silence you keep avoiding? The divine does not shout, it waits. It whispers, and only the present is quiet enough to hear. There is no greater rebellion in the world that glorifies hustle than to become still and full of joy for no reason. Not because you achieved something, not because you crossed the finish line, but because you remembered you are enough without the chase. You are light without the rush. You are whole even when you are still. Time will pass no matter what. But you get to choose whether you pass through time numb or awake, whether you race toward an imagined destination or expand into the richness of every unfolding moment. And the irony is, the more present you become, the more time begins to stretch for you. It opens, it bends, it yields, not to your control, but to your consciousness. Presence is the doorway through which the miraculous enters. And the miracle is not out there in some distant future where you finally made it. The miracle is this moment where nothing is missing and you are not late. How could you be late when the soul is timeless? How could you be behind when the divine has no stopwatch? The belief that you must hurry to catch up is rooted in forgetting who you are. You are not the body that ages. You are not the calendar you mark. You are not the plans you postponed. You are the awareness, witnessing it all. You are the eternal, watching the temporary. You are the sky, not the storm. And the sky does not chase time. It holds it, it observes, it expands. And in this expansion, healing begins. Not by speeding up, but by slowing into yourself, slowing into your heart, slowing into your breath, slowing into the sacred truth that nothing essential can be missed. Your soul will not let you miss what was written for you. What's meant for you will not require self-betrayal to receive. It will not require burnout. It will not ask you to sacrifice presence in exchange for proximity. There is a divine choreography at work, and sometimes the most aligned step is stillness. Sometimes the most courageous act is not pushing harder but listening deeper. Sometimes the next step is not forward but inward, and inward is where time slows. Inward is where eternity begins. Inward is where the real you lives untouched by the ticking of clocks, unbothered by the world's obsession with urgency. You cannot find the soul in a rush. You cannot feel love when you are only moving. You cannot receive the universe when your arms are always reaching but never resting. Expansion doesn't come through force. It comes through surrender. It comes through trust. Trust that you are where you need to be. Trust that nothing essential can pass you by. Trust that your presence is more powerful than your performance. Trust that time is not your master, but your mirror, reflecting how deeply you allow yourself to be. And so I say, with the fullness of divine remembrance behind these words, stop running. Stop trying to beat the clock. Stop measuring your life in hours and start measuring it in awareness, in awe, in aliveness. Expand within the now, because this breath, this moment, this sacred stillness is where your life truly lives. The clock has no dominion over the eternal. It only governs what is temporary, what is surface. But you are not surface. You are not fleeting. You are not a race to be won. You are the sky above all rushing. You are the silence underneath all sound. You are the consciousness beneath the calendar. You are the breath before the name. The fear of running out of time vanishes when you realize you are the timeless. When you step into this moment fully, without resistance, without judgment, without grasping, time no longer moves against you. It moves with you. It begins to cooperate with your peace. It honors your trust. It blesses your stillness. It no longer demands of you. It delivers to you. Because when you are no longer striving to get somewhere, you are finally open to receive what has always been here. This moment is not in your way. It is the way. Every second you resist this moment, you delay the miracle. Every second you open to it, you allow the divine choreography to unfold. This is what expanding within time means, not just slowing your pace, but softening your grip. Releasing the narrative, releasing the guilt, releasing the lie that says you must chase something to be whole. You don't need more time to prove yourself. You don't need more time to become something else. You need only this moment, entered fully, breathed consciously, received humbly. And from here, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly gives you more time, but because you finally become timeless in your way of being. You start showing up with your heart instead of your clock. You begin to speak from your soul instead of your schedule. You begin to live as if every moment is sacred because it is. And then you start to notice the right people come, the right answers arrive, the tension begins to melt, the anxiety begins to fade, not because life became easier, but because you became present. You stopped performing, you started living, and your life responded accordingly. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not failing. You are arriving now. And if no one ever told you this before, let me tell you now, with the authority of every awakened heart that has ever remembered the truth, you are doing just fine. You are unfolding in perfect timing. You are learning what needs to be learned. You are shedding what must be released. You are blossoming, not despite your delays, but because of them. You are not separate from time. You are the pulse within it, the soul that gives it meaning, the consciousness that can turn any moment, even this one, into a gateway to the infinite. So breathe now. Be still now. Smile now, not because everything is fixed, but because you are finally home in yourself. Let the river of urgency dry up. Let the voice of the world fall silent. Let the whisper of your soul rise like a breeze through the leaves, soft, strong, undeniable. You are not here to waste time. You are here to remember the eternal presence that was never absent. You are here to reclaim the sacred rhythm that the world forgot. You are here to stop chasing and start expanding within the only place life has ever truly existed. Now, and now again, and now again, because every now is a miracle, and you are not missing a thing. This is your life. This is your time, and it is holy. Let it be enough. Let it be yours. Let it be.